Of course, in developing countries, there is poultry and pig production, and on a commercial level, I might add. However, a lot of the poultry and pig production is very small scale, even if it's commercial, and the farmer will just sell off the chickens once they no longer are productive in laying eggs and the pigs are no longer having other pigs. So I'm really talking about poultry and pig production on a commercial level in developed countries where it's done on a very large scale. As a reminder, if you look at this map, you can see that the southeastern part of the United States is a main poultry and egg producing area. But remember, this map is showing you the largest agricultural activity per state, and most states have a diversity of agricultural activities going on. If you look at this graph, you can see from 1961 on the way meat production has increased on the planet. And notice that the two types of meat that have increased the most are poultry and pig meat, or pork. Most of the other things you see on there have been relatively static. The increase in meat has largely been driven by an increase in poultry and pig production. Let's start with these two maps. Poultry production 1961 on the left-hand side and 2018 on the right-hand side. And notice that poultry production essentially across the board on this planet has increased, and in some cases, for example, in Latin America, significantly. Now notice the number of animals slaughtered for meat from 1961 to 2018. And what I want you to see here is the chickens. Wow, it does not do one well to be born a chicken. In 2018, there were 69 billion chickens slaughtered, 1.5 billion pigs, 656 million turkeys, 574 million sheep, 479 million goats, and 302 million cattle. So that's the meat production. But look at the chickens, the way chicken meat has really increased in terms of what we consume as human beings. Now look at poultry meat per animal, 1961 and 2018. And notice what's happened. The amount of meat per animal has increased, which means we have engineered the chickens themselves to be bigger and produce more meat. And actually, in a shorter amount of time, when you have very intensive commercial agriculture, it takes about 6 weeks from the time the animal is hatched until when it is slaughtered. And if we were going to have it for laying eggs, that would be 18 weeks. But notice the fully organic running around outside chicken is going to take 12 weeks to be slaughterable for meat and about 29 weeks before it starts to lay eggs. And as you've heard, I have chickens myself, and I can tell you that it does indeed take about 30 weeks before the chicken starts to lay eggs. So here we have our chicken wings, our fried chicken, and our roasted chicken, and a chicken sandwich. I'm not sure even where the chicken is in something like that. Seems like the whole idea is just to eat all this breading rather than the meat itself. But this is the way the animals are raised overwhelmingly in this country, which is kind of factory farms are all crammed together. And of course, because of that, they can spread diseases, and so the antibiotics are just put right into the food. And the animals themselves grow very rapidly on a diet that would not be something they would get under normal circumstances, which would be this: outgrazing. Chickens like to peck around, they like to scratch, they like to take dirt baths, they like to lay in the sun and spread their wings out. And of course, when they're living like this, they are not able to do that, but when they're living like this, they are. But what does this mean? It means the price of the bird is going to be higher if it's going to have this much freedom. How about per capita egg consumption, 1961 to 2017? Well, notice in the United States, we actually have gone down a little bit in our per capita egg consumption, but a lot of the rest of the world has gone up. Not so much in Africa or Southeast Asia, but in other parts of the world, South America, Europe. And now look at egg production 1961, egg production 2018. Notice that it's going up almost every place except for the United States. This is not consumption, this is production. And then notice eggs per bird. That's a big one. far more eggs per bird in most places. I mean, look at South America. Look at much of Asia. The production per bird has gone up, which means the birds have been engineered to produce more eggs. All right, now look, I have had many pork ribs in my life. Barbecue pork ribs used to be one of my favorite things. Maybe it was the barbecue sauce, but pig meat tastes good. It's a fact of the matter, right? Bacon smells good. But in order for it to be cost effective, this is largely the way the pigs are raised. They're in very cramped conditions. Again, there's going to be antibiotics automatically added to their food so they don't spread disease, and then you wipe the entire herd of pigs out. If you're going to graze them free range, this is going to be much more expensive, and it's probably going to cut down on the amount of pork that people can eat. But nevertheless, for the animal itself, it's a lot better. I would ask you this. If you're not willing to do it to a dog, why would you be willing to do it to a pig, since they're of about the same intelligence? Pig meat production 1961 and then 2018. Notice the United States, we're pretty much where we've been, along with Canada and Mexico. But in other places, it's gone up. In some parts of South America and then in some parts of Europe, it's gone up. In Africa, a little bit. But notice the Middle East, North Africa, this is mostly because people are Muslims and they don't eat pork. Now, pig meat per animal. Well, this has gone up almost across the board, which means we're making the animals bigger. So, is this kind of farming intensive or extensive? Well, especially on the factory-style farms, it's intensive because of the high densities and how quickly they want to move the animals along. But if it's pasture-raised, the animals out in the field, that's extensive, but then once again, it's expensive. It requires a lot of people to be involved in it once you begin to collect the eggs and move them along and market them. And when you're going to slaughter the animals, that also becomes very intensive also.